Well, good evening and welcome once again to the LBJ Grasslands outside of Decatur, Texas. Tonight's exercise is part 2 of a field evaluation of the MCH HC by Cloud Defensive. I filmed part 1 at the Arbor Hills Nature Preserve in Plano, and we had the MCH mounted to a Vortex Optics Solo RT. Tonight we're taking the light out into a wilderness environment, and it will be helmet mounted, as you can see ahead of me. Now, I originally planned on filming a night search and rescue training exercise, but a big part of wilderness search and rescue is land navigation. And it occurred to me that I've never filmed a video dedicated to night land navigation. We had a couple of viewers who thought that would be a cool idea. Well, that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to go out exploring tonight in the grasslands and show how that we can maintain orientation to a starting point using nothing more than natural terrain features. No map, no compass, no GPS. But first I need to let the sun go down, give it about another 15 minutes or so, then I'll be back and I'll explain the exercise. Well, we're back. This is my starting point. If I look over to my left here, this is camp. You can probably see the truck, but this is the starting point or the starting orientation that I want to match. I like this particular point, especially as an exercise, because we have good line of sight to the comm towers. And that's actually the only thing I'm going to be using tonight. Now, I did watch the sunset. And because of that, I've got a pretty good idea that my north-south line is about right here. And certainly once the North Star becomes visible, I can verify that, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use the comm towers and this road. I'm trying to film this right at dusk. You can see that there's a bend to the left. I can deduce that the comm towers are probably to the right of the road. Now I'm looking at this specific orientation at camp. The other thing I want to determine is roughly how far I am from the comm towers. Actually, not how far I am, but how could I determine at some other point when I'm out tonight, am I closer to or further away from the comm towers than I am right now? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thumb up, and what I'm noticing is that my thumbnail just barely covers the distance between the top two flashing lights. So that very approximately gives me a means to determine relative distance. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is, before I get started, I want to realize that the road here is a bailout. And because of my north-south line, the road is approximately east. I'm going to be working out in this direction. So if I just get totally jammed up and I need a bailout, I just need to keep a good intuitive idea of which direction the road is. If I can make it back to the road, spot the comm towers, and then I can use that relative distance to decide which direction to move along the road. So I'm going to start by heading out in this direction, and we'll just make it up as we go, and I'll show you how we can maintain orientation throughout the night. And again, I'm not using map, compass, or GPS navigation. Okay, I'm doing a final light test. I don't have any light on right now, and there's the MCH HC, and I'm looking at a tree line that from this distance right by my truck is probably 140 to 150 yards at dusk with nearly a full moon out. All right, light check is complete. Let's get out there. Okay, we've come to an intersection here. I'm going to move off in this direction, I always recommend taking a mental snapshot of important terrain features. Notice that I have a fence line on my left, and if I look out here with the MCH, I notice that I'm moving predominantly downhill. I'm kind of near the top of a rise right now. So as I work my way away from camp, I would expect to be going roughly downhill. As I come back, I'm going to be working uphill. And so that gives me an extra clue to validate my path when I'm trying to make my way back to camp. I'll also notice I have this very unusual indentation in the dirt ahead of me. That's kind of unusual for a trail, although the ground out here is unstable. So this is likely from a recent winter storm where we had a rapid freeze, then a rapid thaw. You know, weather in Texas, it's icy one day or two later it's in the 70s, and then horses come through here and that causes these type of depressions. So I'm going to keep all of these details in mind as I'm working through territory, because this may be important on my way back. But really remember the fence line on the left-hand side. Well, we've made it to another campground. As this happens, it's TADRA. TADRA stands for Texas Arabian Distance Racing Association. This is one of the primary campgrounds here at the Grasslands, and it also serves as a trailhead for all the named trails out here. Typically what I will do is walk past this windmill. There's a lake in that direction. We'll take the yellow trail out in this direction and then come back later on. Working our way back to the windmill can be rather challenging, but here's the problem. Where do we go next? So I turn around here. There's the trailhead markers right there. So I get to this position. Where do I go? Well, most people won't take a mental snapshot. The person navigating with GPS will probably set a waypoint there at the windmill, but the previous waypoint is where we made that turn. So that arrow would in fact be pointing roughly in that direction, but there's no path that I can take in that direction. All we have out here is a path that goes that way, and the person that does compass and ingress map may have shot an azimuth when we made that transition from a dirt path to this more rocky area. The first thing you're going to see is this reflective marker. Maybe they shot an azimuth. That would allow them to compute a back azimuth. Or perhaps they saw this sign and this sign and put together that the trail marker here, I put this on my ingress map, was on my left-hand side going out, so it must be on my right-hand side going back. Let's split the difference between the signs. We should probably go in that direction. But here's a common mistake that people will make, and this happens a lot, is they'll look out here and they'll see this sign of a road. Now, let me light this up even more with the MCH. Oh, there's a path between the trees. This road must head in that direction. GPS is pointing off kind of in this direction, and maybe this is the road that leads back out and curls out to camp. That's what I call pattern matching. It's something that the mind does to take what you see now and match it to something that you've seen before in the hopes of coming up with a plausible story to fight off disorientation and panic. So we're going to make this mistake and head down the road in this direction and just see where it goes. Now, before I do that, I always want to check my actual orientation. Where are the comm towers? Now, they're a little hard to see from here, but they are back in that direction. Even if you can't see them, it's always a good idea, and this is something that you just have to work on over time to maintain a good intuitive feel of where your terrain markers are. But in any event, we're going to take the road out here, and we'll call this the road less traveled, and we'll just see where it goes. Well, the road has dead-ended, and it looks like we have a little bit of a path here that heads out into unknown territory. Now, I have my headlamp in 1800 lumen combined mode. Let me bring the MCH in here. Okay, so it looks like the path goes out in that direction. There's a tree line, there's an opening, so I'm guessing the path kind of goes out like that. Now, where are the comm towers? Okay, comm towers are back that way. So where is camp? Well, to match that orientation, camp is probably back in that direction somewhere. Is there any path that we can take in that direction? No, I've got a fence line here. Nothing I'd want to go over there. So the smart thing to do would be, there's the road I came in on. It's time to backtrack. Let's get back to that windmill and reassess our situation. Oh, but you know me, I'm not very smart. So what am I going to do? I'm going to keep heading out in that direction. Let's see where that goes. Well, now we've come to a fork, so which way do we go? Okay, which direction are the comm towers? I can't see them, but this is why I recommend just getting out and getting the experience and maintaining that intuitive orientation to your markers, and I know they happen to be off my right shoulder. So the smart decision would be to take the right fork. That at least heads us closer to the direction of the comm towers if we're going to stay on this path. But you know what we're going to do. We're going to take the left fork. Well, at this point, it looks like we're getting nowhere fast. I've come to sort of a decision point, and comm towers are in that direction, which means camp is roughly off in there. No clear path here. This is where I came from. This goes in the opposite direction of the comm tower, so we're definitely not going there. But I really want to get us out almost to the point of being completely lost. In fact, get us off the normal trail line. This is actually the inbound for the blue, yellow, and orange trails. Now, the U.S. Forest Service has really cleared this off. If I came out here just a month or two ago, this area would look almost completely unpassable. They've done a lot of clearing for us, and we can see using the MCH that seems to go off for a while, but it also seems to curl to the left and move us away from the comm towers. But tonight's theme is to get us out in the middle of nowhere and then reason our way back, so we're going in that direction. So I'm looking to the left of the direction I headed. This is actually the outbound of the orange trail. This is as far as any type of grooming goes. If we move out here, this is just wide open territory. In fact, let's light this up with the MCH. Yeah, you can see that goes way back out there. That is, again, wide open territory. There's nothing out there you probably just heard, but wild animals. So let's hope they obey social distancing. That's the direction we're headed. Well, if you wanted to say we're in the middle of nowhere, you might be about right. However, the comm towers are directly in front of me, and that tells me I veered a little bit more off to the west. Now, if I light this up with the MCH, I still have kind of a walkable path through here, so I'm not going to give up on this yet. In fact, it looks like we may hit either a barrier and have to turn back, or I'm seeing a little bit of black to the right there, we may make kind of a right turn and head back towards the east, which would be very welcome. Well, we did make a right turn, and so we've headed out back roughly eastward. In fact, we're headed approximately towards the road, and I can confirm that by the fact that the comm towers have moved to my back left. And the only way they could move in the sequence of orientation that they did is if I made that big 90-degree right turn. But at night, if you're not paying attention to your marks, not paying attention to terrain, just looking at what's in front of you, your context, which is what is available to you through your lighting system, is so narrow that it's actually possible to think that you're continuing to go straight. And if I look at this with the MCH, it looks like I've still got a walkable path ahead, so I'm just going to keep pressing on. Well, I finally come out of all of this into a somewhat more open area, and it's looking pretty bleak. Perhaps I've made a huge mistake. Well, let's just go forward here a little bit, see what's ahead of us. It's a very open area. Oh, and look at this. This looks like a groomed trail. Comes back from that direction, and as it happens, this is the red trail. Remember that fork way back over there? If we had taken the right fork, we would have eventually come out right here. Instead, we went back past the orange trail through the deep, dark abyss. This is the area that we just came from. So where do we go from here? Okay, question number one, where's the comm towers? And comm towers are that way, so road must be in this direction. So if I was taking a team out here and we were doing a nav exercise and they identified which direction is the road, and they said, let's take the trail that seems to head towards the road, see if we can catch the road, determine where we are relative to our start position, and go down the road in that direction, find camp. Okay, congratulations, you aced the exercise. But I'm going to look around here, and in fact, as I look around, I can see that a lot has changed. Just a few months ago, this area in front of me was absolutely blocked off. In fact, I'm going to go back in the Wayback Machine to a video segment maybe 4 months ago and see if I can dig that up and show you what this looked like a few months ago. Okay, if we look around, we can see signs of controlled burning. It's hard to see from here, but there's a lot of wood. This has been cleared. And if I use the MCH, even though I've got my headlamp in a very high mode, having the MCH here, oh, look at that. It looks like we have a path right through the trees, and I can barely see signs of a vehicle having moved through there. Ah, okay. Now I can see a lot of this stuff that's been cleared burn off there. So we put it all together. I'm guessing that this is an area that the U.S. Forest Service used as a shortcut to come down here to the red trail for purposes of maintenance and controlled burning. So shortcuts have to go from somewhere to somewhere. Well, obviously, this is the 2 point. I want to see if I can work back that way and find the from point. And as I'm going this way, comm towers will be back off my left shoulder and road will be left. So we're going to maintain orientation the entire way. But let's go explore in that direction and see if we can find the from point for this shortcut, or what I'm saying is a shortcut. Well, I'm kind of huffing and puffing a bit. Worked my way up to a top of the rise. Here's the path we're on, and the further along I go, the further along we can see that this is from vehicle traffic. I've also noted tracks of horses moving through here. This is actually a pretty good sign. Now, this is where the MCH really pays off. I can see this keeps going and going, so I'm going to stick with it. The road is still to my left. The comm towers are well behind me and to the left, but like I say, this shortcut path has got to lead somewhere. Now that I've seen horse traffic, you may get vehicle traffic here just a few times a year, but horse traffic, that tells me that this is something significant. Okay, that's the path we just came from. Comm towers are right there. So where is the road? The road runs roughly along this way. But when I look out here, what do I have? I've got a fence line on my right. I've got my headlamp on high, but let's get the MCH in. Oh, look at that. It goes uphill in the direction of the road. When I started, the road was behind me, fence line was on the left, and I was going downhill. Now here's a path that goes uphill with the fence line on the right. Ah, yes, you have put two and two together. High probability the road's in that direction, so that's where we're going. Well, remember what I said about mental snapshots? After a long trek uphill, look what I came to. There's that depression, the fence, path out there. Have we seen this before? Go back to the very beginning. Yeah, we've seen it. I was standing right there on the other side of this trail. We just made a gigantic loop. Pretty interesting. Wasn't quite sure if that was going to work, but that must mean that camp is just at the top of this rise right by the road. So as soon as I get there, I'll do my final wrap up. Well, here we are back where we started. Comm towers in the exact orientation. There's the road. There's the open area out to the roughly the west. I'm going to get the MCH on here. And we did that entire exercise. No map, no compass, no GPS. The MCH performed flawlessly. I've actually had it in my knife pocket for the last week. No issues, no accidental discharges. It clearly works well as a handheld light. These last two field tests have shown you some additional mounting options. I hope you got some good information tonight. Even if you're not interested in the MCH, maybe you learned a little something about primitive land navigation. I've barely scratched the surface of this topic. If you'd like to see more videos on that, let me know in the comments and I will make it happen. If you'd like to see the MCH tested in another environment, again, let me know. As always, thank you so much for your time and watching the video.